Okay, I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District to order at 10:08 on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. We'll just go to item 1. This is introductions and review of the agenda, which we've done, and then there really isn't that much. The main thing is going to be to review the draft preliminary 2025-26 budget and capital improvement plan, which is now item 2. So Rochelle, if you want to take it away, this is the time.
Yes, thank you, Virginia. I don't want to be redundant, but just in case anybody's joining us for the first time around our budget book, I'll do a quick introduction to how it works. Again, so we are using a digital product where now our budget book is online. It's really handy to be able to jump around to the different sections. You can see over here on the left, we have introduction and overview. Just some great items through there. I always really like our demographics. I'll give us a quick look at our demographics with some really nice visuals. The next tab is influencing factors, and we'll actually come back to this one once I give our little overview of how to navigate through the budget book. I like this little table that we use a lot, and we'll talk to it when we review what's changed from our 2025 projections, what has changed from our first look budget from last month and to now. Our budget summary tab is more of a detailed breakdown of this budget overview. So if you wanted to see as the district what our expenses were in the previous year and what our projections are, you can drill down into here and get some of that more granular data. So I want to show you some of those. So in case anybody wants to take a deeper dive into what our trends have been around salaries, benefits, and other types of expenses, legal, repairs and maintenance. So you can drill down under budget summary, that in-depth data. And then if I'm really just want to know what's happening at Pillar Point Harbor, I can go over to departments and select any of our 3 departments to get that department level data. Again, you can look at expenditures by expense type to really see what things are costing in each of our departments: administration, Pillar Point Harbor, and Oyster Point Marine. Our last tab, not our last tab, but our capital improvement tab. I think this is also a really important tab. It is going to speak to what we anticipate our capital improvement projects to be in the next fiscal year. So next year, we're anticipating requesting $625,000. And if you want to see how that 625 is broken down, if you scroll down, you can see what's requested by Pillar Point, Oyster Point, and at the bottom, we'll find the admin. So the request from Pillar Point Harbor is one of the dollar amounts that's changed from our first look. I lost the number in my head. It is now up to 375.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on my phone.
375, and we increased that based on the identified needs to fully outfit or adequately outfit our search and rescue vehicles. We're looking at replacing our jet skis and repowering our primary search and rescue vessel. So an increase in that request for Pillar Point Harbor. Also looking at a request for $50,000 from Oyster Point Marina, and then $200,000 for admin.
Michelle, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I'm assuming that y'all talked to the staff members who want this allocation, right? Like at Oyster Point Marina, for example.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We don't know what they need
Without
really involving
talking
them
to
in the
them. Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, so I just want to put that out
It was
there.
developed from bottom up. So
Okay.
the deputy harbor masters that are working on them put the request up to the senior deputy harbor masters, the assistant to the harbor master. And then both harbor masters submitted the package to John, and then John worked it through the management team.
Okay, great, thanks.
It's just hard to believe that the jet ski is already 5 years old.
Oh, it's weird.
Our deputies really did an outstanding job of really describing why and what they needed.
A full justification.
Really nicely and professionally laid out.
I just would have thought Oyster Point would have wanted a little more, but that's fine, 50,000.
No, I think just one of the differences is, serving on the bay side, their rescue needs are just a little bit
Different,
different.
yeah.
They don't have that intense surf need like we
Yes.
do over here, so the request was just lower.
Yeah.
And the safety network over there is
It's more
much more filled in than it is here.
robust, yeah. Yeah.
Well, as a government entity, as everybody knows, that means that we have a ton of acronyms.
Yeah.
So the general public may not know. I have to refer back to our definitions and abbreviations as I am still learning things here at the district. But this definition and abbreviations section is updated every year. This year, we are incorporating a project with the Army Corps of Engineers for Princeton Shoreline. And so that federal government entity has a ton of new acronyms that we have incorporated into the definitions and abbreviations. So trying to make that a working document so that everybody can decipher what we're talking about throughout the budget document. So I did touch on one of the differences from our first look. I'm going to go back over here to our budget. Budget at a glance. So we increased our capital improvement project requests for Pillar Point Harbor. The other thing that happened between our first look and today's preliminary budget is we were able to increase the operating revenue for Pillar Point Harbor, and that is associated with our new Pillar Point Harbor storage lot. And so we're anticipating $30,000 in the next fiscal year for that storage lot. That's good news, and that increased our overall operating revenues increased to 2.8. We increased a lot of our rates and fees in this projection, estimating that to increase by 2.8%. But we were at 2.6, even though we increased the fees by 2.8, just with the decrease in boat launch fees and berth rentals and the impacts of a decreased recreational and commercial fishing season. So that little bump from the storage lot was able to bring us back up to that 2.8. So that was good. And then the other change that, like I mentioned, we saw was the increase in the Pillar Point Harbor capital project increase. When I'm not sure how many hours I can squeeze out in the next couple days before this is turned in for our board meeting next week. We all participated in a strategic planning meeting yesterday. And we were in the admin department, we were hopeful that that would be completed so that we could include those new strategic goals within the budget book, because that's a requirement. But since that's not going to be available till June, we are going to pull back in our previous goals and objectives. They'll be part of the budget book, and we'll plan on updating that into the new fiscal year. But for this, the exercise of approving a budget this year and having strategic goals and objectives embedded in the budget book, I will be pulling those back in from our previous.
So, Rochelle, so, yeah, because I think the strategic goals workshop yesterday yielded, that they're gonna come back in May, right? for things. And so, yeah, so there may not be enough time necessarily, but could we approve the budget and then amend it in July with the add-on from the strategic planning strategic planning workshop yesterday?
Yes, we could totally just pull in that information.
Just to, I mean, basically amending that, but the numbers are there.
The numbers are there,
Yeah.
our goals and kind of
Yeah.
time back to our
Yeah.
spending
Yeah,
with,
that's,
won't be completed.
no, but we could, so maybe we should ask Catherine to put that on a July meeting to, mention that when,
Yes.
mention
Mhm.
that when she-
Thank you.
It's
It's
not
a good
gonna be
idea.
That big of a difference, a month, it'll be the first month in the start of the fiscal year anyway, but if we can just mention that at this meeting, then at least everyone will get a heads up that this is gonna come back to us for an amendment
Mhm.
based on the strategic planning workshop yesterday.
That's a great idea. And like you mentioned, the numbers won't change.
Yeah.
It'll just be some of the narrative pieces
Yeah.
tying
Yeah,
our goals to our spending.
yeah, and I would definitely mention that in your report.
And I can even adjust my staff report that will go for next week.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying.
call that
For
out,
the- I'm
yes.
sorry, for the April meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, for this month's meeting, yeah. I think give, enough, yeah, just mention it this next month in May. Actually, or in June,
Yes.
yeah, that it'll come back, yeah. Yeah, I would just do, because the numbers aren't going to change,
No.
okay.
So those were our two changes between the last time we discussed the budget. And that was, again, increased revenue, but an increased ask for Ford Point Harbor search and rescue vessels.
Can you do a comparison on what the other boatyards or storage lots are charging to see how close we are?
Yes, so I looked at about 15 other boatyards up and down the west coast, mainly in California, a little bit into southern Oregon. Currently, we're charging $100 a month, and we're a little bit under market at $100 a month. So, and I think that, probably leads to that lot being pretty full. And I think even with a moderate increase to potentially 125 in the future that, we're looking at for July, it's still a very competitive and rate. For that storage
Don't
lot.
baked in on our rates and fees to increase.
Yes,
Okay.
it's proposed, yes.
And we're going to by foot versus just a slot.
So, in terms of size.
A 40-foot boat would cost more than a 20-foot boat.
Rochelle, just a quick question.
Yes.
Has anybody moved out of that since we took it over?
Somebody called yesterday, very excited, because he hasn't heard from us. We've been trying to reach you. Did you call him? and
Yes,
he's happy again?
yes, he received our invoice and he's happy to pay it.
Questions?
Yes.
I'm looking, okay. So we have about the $10 million in investment with the investment manager, right?
Yes. 15. Mhm.
Yeah, so, yeah, so the question is, they're supposed to give you that update, right, that I'd asked for.
Yes.
And, we actually had their list of our investments at in their last presentation. Can we put that kind of summary in here too? Just so that people can see that we've invested in this and the money is actually working to make money. Wow.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like with our little 1-page portfolio and the return, and I mean, like I said, that should be a no-brainer to get just the top line information.
I'm looking to see. Might be a good place. I'm thinking maybe even our long-term financial planning.
I'm looking
Might
at,
be-
let me pull up the tab. I'm looking at the budget summary. It only has enterprise funds, right? Budget summary. I mean, could we have like, I don't know, yeah, I mean, maybe figure it out, but maybe there's a whole tab that that allows people to look at how we're invested under enterprise, because you've divided out the budget summary, right? Enterprise funds, and then,
We could call it out either in revenues by source and go a little bit deeper in the narratives in that area, and that's under budget summary. Or we could put it under influencing factors.
oh, let me see that. Oh, yeah. Long-term financial planning.
Yes. Kind of build
Yeah,
out.
that, I think that would be good. Yeah. Because then that other money can be viewed, right, and how it's being invested. Because that's another part of our quote unquote, it's not our budget per se, but it does round out our financial picture for the district. I think an important part too, because it's a lot of money for the district to have in the investments.
And that a little bit. And talk about,
Yes.
last year we had more than anticipated interest income from our investments. And even this year, we're anticipating a decent return.
Yeah,
for
but you
2026.
did a staff report last year when we were looking for the investment advisor. I would take some of that as to, I would put, since this is kind of a new tab or sub tab, I would put in there why we were looking for an investment advisor. And the, macroeconomic climate, I mean, just whatever you did last time in the staff report, I would just take pieces of that. And because then, once you have that put in there, you don't have to, make something, you don't have to produce a new thing every time, right? But the historical context, I think, is important. So I don't think we've ever really done this like this, ever, and so this is a fairly new way of income generation, basically, the capital markets and making the money work for us rather than, actually having to go and it's a different source of
Yes.
income. So I would put, just take the old report and and just put out the historical context. They got paid that with the securities listed, which I think are the, like the Fannie's farm credits, right, that you may have some shorter terms too, right?
And Boomer's is joining us today.
Oh.
I don't see his face, through the webinar, but I'll reach out to Boomer as well.
Okay.
He's more intimately aware of our investment strategies and putting together that investment board report. And so I'm sure that together he and I can make sure that this is what you'd like.
Well,
And I think
mean,
it'll,
I think it just makes it more transparent, which is important for the bulk of our money, right?
yes,
And I'm happy to help review it if you want.
love that. Thank you very much for the offer. We will take you up on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, are you okay with that? No, do you have any questions? I think it looks good. So this is going on the agenda for this month,
Yes.
for the preliminary look. Any chance that we can get the investment manager summary to be added into this before the board meeting?
Yes.
They should, I mean, this is such an easy thing. I don't know why. Yeah. Be great. Okay. Any- Anything else, Rochelle? I'm trying to go back to the agenda.
Our only item on the agenda was
And then
the formal item.
forward it, yeah, forwarding it to the board for consideration. But yeah, would be then if you added. This is the long-term. influence.
Yes.
Probably good, after the next board meeting.
Any other questions? Well, I guess we can adjourn. Okay, at 10:28.
What about efficient? We put together a document.
Well, thank you both for being here today.